last night to hear Governor Gretchen Whitmer deliver her first State of the State. One of those, of course, is a newly minted senator in the 24th District, and out of Charlotte, and that's Tom Barrett, who's on the other end of our line this morning. Morning, sir.
Good morning.
You doing okay? It was a long night for you. Well, I guess you've had longer ones, though, before in the house. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I got home about, probably 10:30 or 11 last night. Really, I would have been home sooner, but the roads were pretty rough on the way back last night. So it was not an enjoyable commute back home last night after the speech. But, as you said, we've had later nights and later times in the legislature before.
So you walk back in and, someone else has your desk in that chamber now. So
they do.
Yeah, you don't get to sit there anymore, but it's not like you don't get ripped off when you're a state senator as you make the walk down the hall. So you sat and you watched her hop up there on that rostrum and deliver a speech that went just under an hour. What was your biggest takeaway from that State of the State?
Yeah, I guess my biggest takeaway is, let's wait and see what her budget suggests for all of these priorities that she laid out. She mentioned quite a few items that she wanted to focus on. Of course, roads is critical to all of us in our state. And I think every single candidate for elected office, has brought up roads as an issue, and every single constituent that we speak to as well feels that way. I would have really liked to have heard her focus more on auto insurance reform. We really need to make auto insurance affordable for the families in our state. And the governor briefly mentioned it once, but to me, that's the biggest pocketbook issue that families are facing in our state right now. We have just completely unaffordable auto insurance. There's so much fraud and waste in the system right now that we could really do some easy work, in my opinion, to lower rates. And the governor kind of mentioned it briefly, but didn't really put any muscle behind it.
So you don't think that's going? Well, I mean, when you're going to have Detroit's mayor coming up here, and that's going to create. The word is not sideshow, but it will be. It will be an interesting environment when he comes in to testify about auto insurance. That'll put it back at that point on the front burner, at least for a period of time. Do you think she's not committed to that then, or is it just?
I guess I don't want to assume too much or too little. The mayor was there last night as a guest of either the governor or another legislator. I had intended to try and catch him for a moment, but the room being as crowded as it was, I wasn't able to make my way over to say hello to Mayor Duggan. But I wanted to bring this issue up to him because I know he is really committed to it. I've attempted multiple reform efforts in the legislature, tried to really rally the commitment it takes from the legislators to kind of see through the fog of different interest groups on one side or the other to try and really get to the root cause bottom line of how we can lower our rates.
This isn't always, it's not always a partisan thing either, is it? No. I mean, you've got people on your side who don't agree with you, and you got people on the other side, Democrats, who do agree with you.
There are plenty of people in the world that don't agree with me, Dave, but the world
nobody listening to us today, clearly. But I mean, it's one that divides the partisan group, and it makes for interesting bedfellows. That's my only point.
It absolutely does. And I will say this though: the last major reform effort that we took up in the state house in 2017, it would have been, had probably 3/4 of the Republican caucus vote in favor. And I believe we only got 4 or 5 Democrats to cross the aisle and vote with us. So, yes, we had not unanimous support within the Republican caucus. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to get it over the hump. But we got close, and I'm hopeful with this new legislature, many of the returning members who are either back in the House or are now in the Senate are filling seats that were in favor of auto insurance reform the last time we brought it up. And I think we've built numbers from that point to improve that coalition.
Senator Tom Barrett, our guest this morning, 24th District. But let's go back to what she did, though. Her 3 planks that she previewed here on this show on Monday: roads, education / skills gap, and clean water. I mean, no one wants to be against any of those things, but in order to make effective change, the question is, how much are you going to spend, and are you going to bring in additional revenue through taxes or fees on individuals, on businesses, or are you going to do the old shell game, rob Peter to pay Paul? What will it be a bit of both? What do you expect to see in that executive budget?
Right. I do expect her to lay out the methods for how she's going to fund these things. She talked about, basically free community college or 2 years of a 4-year school for folks who meet certain criteria. She didn't really lay out what that criteria would be. And depending on the size of that universe is going to be the costs associated with that. And, we as legislators and certainly as the governor of the state, we have an endless amount of things we would love to do to make our state a better place. But each of those things costs money. And we don't always have the unlimited budget that we would like to fund all these priorities that a governor or a legislator may have. So we have to find different ways to make efficiencies within the budget to fund the things that we have to fund. And I look at, the pillars of our government being obviously our infrastructure, our public safety, our education, certainly clean water, many of the things the governor laid out. But there's a lot of other things that are also in the budget that don't deal with any of those. And once they're there and once they're funded, it's very, very difficult to take away resources
enshrined
from that.
Yeah, they're almost enshrined. Okay.
Because there is now not a victim, so to speak, but somebody who's on the losing end of that transaction when you take money or resources away from their priority to put into somebody else's. And that can get very politically difficult for either legislators or the governor to agree to. And that's, sometimes where you see the back and forth of
tough
different
choices
priorities and everything else.
Tough choices to come. What was your reaction when you saw that Senate Fiscal Agency number for roads, $2.7 billion per year to get a crack at?
Yeah, and we are actually spending more on roads today than we have in the history of the state of Michigan. Since I took office in 2015 into the State House till now, we're spending well over $1 billion, probably $1.5 billion a year more in roads than we did then. Every single year that I've been in Lansing, we've applied more and more money toward roads. So we are doing our best to do that. But I will say that you can't just dump an extra $2 billion into the transportation budget because we don't have the materials or the manpower or the machinery to, to build roads all at once. And that money would get sucked up into administrative overhead and, administrative costs that don't actually buy us cement and asphalt and get it into the road. So we have to be prudent about how we phase this in as well. So there's a lot of balancing that goes on when you're setting a state budget and plotting out these things and trying to do it in the most fiscally responsible way so that our citizens in our state get the most bang for their buck when they're paying a tax dollar that they know it's going into the appropriate place and in the most efficient way. Tom
Barrett, State Senator, 24th District, out of Charlotte, who braved the roads last night. And, the morning wake-up here once again, where, as he admitted today, some people don't agree with him, don't like him out there. It just comes with the. You wouldn't believe how many give me that same grief. It comes with the territory, and you just grin and bear it. As long as they don't live at your house, as long as the ones living at your house think you're okay, and you can keep those from the ones who haven't made up their mind totally yet, you're fine. Well, it's just the way it goes.
My son had a visit from the Tooth Fairy last night, so I think he's excited to tell me how that went this morning.
Well, there it goes.
Hopefully the approval rate is high today.
All right. Well, that's a good day. That's a good day for you and for him. And I hope the Tooth Fairy took care of him in 2019 rates. Okay.
I have it on good authority that she did.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Tom, thanks for being here today. Appreciate your input. All right. Talking State of the State with him, and he said the details.